This is Maharajas of Scale, a podcast where we go behind the scenes and talk to founders who are demolishing the myths around building and scaling a big business in India. These are the stories that have shattered the assumptions around Indian consumers and are changing the game completely. I am Krishna serial entrepreneur, co-founder of Flit, the fashion locator in town, and startup mentor, bringing you these stories. Hey listeners, this is Krishna from Maharajas of Scale. This afternoon, right in the midst of perhaps one of the greatest healthcare crises that has ever struck the planet, we have the good fortune of speaking to a Maharani of Scale, Sonal Verma of Glow Road. In fact, I should say Dr. Sonal Verma of Glow Road, who's doing some amazing things. And I'm certain that at this point in time, a lot of the people that work with Glow Road and have found their livelihoods through Glow Road will be very, very happy for what Sonal's done. Sonal, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Krishna. Thank you for having me here.
Awesome. So, Sonal, we are talking in unprecedented times. Right. A lot of mayhem is going on, mostly on the economic front, while some stuff seems to be going on the healthcare front. How is life for you guys at Glow Road amidst the coronavirus crisis?
We are working from home. We are trying to do our best from home. The team has coped very well, actually. They have taken well to the work from home scenario, but the on-ground activities have come to a halt because the couriers are not working, the suppliers are not working. But I believe this is a transient phase, and we are using this to do many things which we otherwise don't find the time to do. So we are just taking this as an opportunity to do something different.
Interesting. I had somebody send me a WhatsApp with about 100 things to be done, which included stuff like wills to be made. Obviously, finding a lawyer at this time is tough, but that list definitely made me reflect to say how much time we do have on our hands and how we could use it productively. So awesome. You're an enterprising lady. I'm sure you're only taking your game to the next level in these times. So let's jump into the discussion. So tell us what you're working on right now and tell us something interesting about Glow Road in numbers.
So Krishna, I'm digressing a bit from the topic. Being a doctor at the moment, I am also very stressed and concerned about my friends who are all doctors and facing the coronavirus patients. They're on the front line. Quite a few of them are abroad. So since I am talking to people, and I know people are listening to me as a doctor, I just request everyone people are already doing that, but yeah, it's a very, very difficult time for the medical community. They have literally become soldiers overnight, risking their lives. And to be very honest, the anxiety with some very near and dear ones are into this. So it was a little difficult for me to say yes to this talk, because here we just want to be optimistic and look at the positive side of the picture. I just hope that I sound enthusiastic enough, and excuse me if some of the troubles of the corona crisis affecting my friends is obvious.
Well, we pray for them. These are definitely very different situations. Being a chartered accountant myself, I've never seen a scenario in most business planning. If you're at X, you either factor in a 0.15x or a 0.2x of growth, or maybe given an economic climate, you possibly factor in a 0.2x degrowth. Perhaps a lot of industries right now are facing zero revenue.
Yeah.
And on top of it, the speed with which this seems to have cascaded across the world,
yes,
and a lot of people from the healthcare community are still clutching for answers. It's definitely left a lot of us unnerved. Our hearts go out to them.
They're just questioning about our entire approach and philosophy. So at the moment, we're all just thinking about how to get over this, and how much health really, and how small we are in before a virus who has just overpowered us. Anyway, leave that aside. I'm very sure we are making a lot of progress. I keep hearing from everyone, and the people are cracking the pathophysiology treatment. I think things will get very, very much in control very soon.
Well, I joke about it saying if it's apocalypse, then none of us are going to be alive. Perhaps then nobody has any troubles. But if it is not, but if it is not an apocalypse, and then some of us, a majority of us, are going to survive, we'll definitely draw some lessons from it and live life in a slightly different way, but definitely positive.
Yeah, sure.
And you're an entrepreneur. You've seen tougher times. I'm certain many of them. And then, while this may be very different from what you've seen, optimism is what defines an entrepreneur.
Yeah, there's no other way.
Right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us a little more about Glow Road, and also tell us some interesting statistics and numbers and the kind of impact that you've delivered with it.
Okay, so Glow Road is we are a social commerce platform. We are a resellers platform. This app is meant for helping you make money, start a business of your own, and without investing any money. So it sounds a little scandalous there. You start a business of your own without investing any money. But that is exactly what we are. We have 10 million plus downloads, much more than that, but actually. Most of our resellers are in tier 3 and 4 cities. And I think it has been an amazing journey. It's surreal to think that so many people, lakhs of people are earning every month on our platform. And we have been able to build an earning tool to use social media for making money effectively. If you want me to elaborate more on what Glow Road does, I can tell you.
Please do.
So, what Glow Road does is that it connects resellers with suppliers. So, reseller is any person who does not have products of their own, either manufactured or purchased. So, you're just about anyone sitting at your home with the app in your hand, the Glow Road app, and an intention or willingness, capability, whatever you may call it, to sell products and make money. But you do not manufacture anything, and you don't hold any stock either. So what do? So typically, it's a very well understood term, drop shipper. It's not very popular in India. So you are basically a drop shipper. So you are in touch with the supplier who has the goods, who holds the goods, and will ship the goods to your customer. The customer who you find. So your job is just to find the customer, and the rest is all handled by Glow Road and the supplier. Now, what is new or good or strange about it? Which dropshipping has pretty much been around for a long time, very long time, very well established way of earning abroad. But the difference that you will see with Glow Road is that it is extremely easy to use. It is targeted at women, most of whom are housewives, and with mostly no professional education. And we connect the suppliers, we take care of the customer service, we take care of the logistics, COD, and return. So that makes it kind of unique. That it's an end-to-end solution for the dropshipper who can simply download the app and start earning margin. So to give you an example, we have a lot of suppliers with us who list their products on our platform. Say the product is listed for 500 rupees. The app allows you to share this product with your friends, both as images, as simple images, or within a micro store of your own, and sell it at a price that you want. So it could be of 500 rupees, and you could sell it for, if you think that this product will sell well, it can fetch, say, 700 rupees in the market, you sell it for 700 rupees. Now, once you have sold the product, that is, your customer has placed their order, Glow Road will pick the stuff from the supplier, deliver it to your customer, collect the money, if it is a cash on delivery order, send you your 200 rupees commission, that is the margin that you made, in your bank account, and of course, pay the supplier and the logistic partner and the Glow Road's margin, everything in between. So that's what we do broadly. Now, what is the beauty of the entire model is, of course, the ease of the app, very much. The kind of products that we bring in. One could say, I could as well sell Amway, I could do Oriflame, and so many other things. What's the big deal? I could sell AliExpress products. Why this? So we have products that are absolutely relevant to the Indian market. The shipping time is small, as good as your regular e-com, at par, and the product variety is quite curated to suit the customer base of a woman sitting in a tier 2, 3, 4 city. So that way we have been able to build an earning tool for these ladies, our resellers. And now we also have a lot of men on board because they saw this as an attractive option, and we saw no harm in opening the platform to men.
Very interesting. So in effect, you're perhaps one of the first few platforms to take advantage of a person's influence or their network and in some sense directly monetize it.
True. So jokingly, we were having a conversation that one day people are going to get tired of wasting their time on Facebook and WhatsApp, and they will itch to do something better over here. So yes, we thought that eventually people will look at social media for monetizing, for earning something.
Yeah, the fundamental difference though here is you are actually letting somebody in some sense play a small celebrity or a mini celebrity, maybe even directly so, with their network, promote a product and benefit out of it. It is incredible what you've done with the model.
Thank you so much. That's very nice to hear. But we were looking. We were very much keen on giving the person who has not worked before, never run a business before, a sense of a feel-good feeling. Yeah, that was very important to me personally, to give them an identity and something to look forward to, feel excited about.
Let's talk about the starting point a little bit. You're a medical doctor by profession. Have you ever practiced as a physician?
So not really, because I did my postgrad, during which I did clinical work, of course, but never practiced. Immediately after finishing my post-graduation, I came to Bangalore and I joined a company which was servicing big pharmaceuticals. It was a secondary research firm for big pharmaceuticals, and we were doing some research and intelligence work for them. It was very nice. It was good work. I stayed with them for about more than two and a half years, and then I started along with some co-founders a telemedicine company. So I did not know what we were actually starting. We just thought that technology should be. Being a doctor, I had seen that people need doctor's opinion very often. They call up a friend, and actually the incidents that happened was that people would start asking me a lot of questions in chat rooms. Yahoo chat was very popular at that time. The moment somebody knows that it's a doctor on the other side, they start asking medical questions, and sometimes they would be serious questions, and you want to help. So yeah, while talking to some of my friends who were tech people, they were and already running a startup in Bangalore, very much entrepreneurs, and wanted to do another business. We came up with this idea that let's use technology for connecting doctors and patients, and that's how we formed Healthcare Magic in 2008. At that time, it was a one of its kind platform. Totally, absolutely nothing like that existed on the internet. And there was a just answer in US, but that did not have physicians. That had nurses who would answer your questions, or registered nurses. So Healthcare Magic went very well. It was, and my founding team stays with me. The founders, it's the same set of co-founders, and one or two more people who join us later in the founding team. Healthcare Magic got acquired. It was a profitable company. It was doing very well. In 2014, it got acquired by a US public listed company, and it was a good exit for all of us. But we were all pretty young and too early to retire, and naturally wanted to do more with life and more in life. And so what next was what I had in mind. And by then I had started a family. I had 2 kids. And while in the course of raising my children, I started interacting with more and more women. Now, just to give you the background of my the psychology behind is that I belong to North India, any part. You know the status of women has something that has concerned me always. It's not about status. It's the kind of opportunities available to women have made me something very uneasy, restless. You can even say frustrated. But it's always like कर क्या सकते हो, you cannot change the world, you cannot what different. So, but there was this very strong desire to do something to make the world a little bit better for women. That was the prime motivation. So I was actually thinking very, very hard for ideas that could help women earn. To be very, very, so it was as specific as that. I did not know whether it would be reselling or what it would be, but the fact that it was an urge, it was a deep desire to make something that could help women earn was pretty much there. And so I wanted to, I just started exploring and doing some general research around it, what's happening. And so, you start seeing a lot of the encouraging things that we saw at this time was one, that the internet penetration data looked very, very exciting, and the projections looked very interesting, that it's just going to increase and everybody is right up to the deepest pockets. People are going to have mobile phones, and retail is booming, consumption is growing, the fashion industry is growing, e-commerce is growing. So all these factors, but still we were not able to, it was not as though we could instantly join the dots. But then we started seeing that women are in one way or the other trying to use social media for business. So this was new to me. I had not seen, because I do not come from a business family. Everybody is in jobs. So I started seeing that a good number of people do run home-based businesses. And these people are trying to now leverage their WhatsApp and Facebook circles to get more sales. So that was the context. Now, after this, I had some very face-to-face personal conversations with some such women who were doing this and the challenges that they were facing. So, it was a long list of challenges. The capital nahi hai, no capital, no space. So the biggest thing was, of course, the capital investment. That if you want to buy stuff and stock stuff, say you're a housewife, your husband runs another business or is in a job or whatever, you are a housewife and you want to start a business, from where do you get the money? I mean, imagine for most low and middle income families in a small city, that kind of capital is to experiment with. The business is always comes with the risk, is not available, and these women were naturally, they did not have the capital. Even those, suppose the capital is there, capital is not a concern. So the space is not there, because you have to run it from home, and how much can you stock at home? And you have to do all this while taking care of your family. So even if your family is like, you want to do something, it doesn't mean that you can, you don't have to do your domestic work. So time. Then another thing very unique to women is the manpower support. You have the money, you have the time, everything, but how do you network with these wholesalers and manufacturers and courier people who are all men? It's a men's world. So keeping this picture in mind, that how do we make all this very smooth for a woman, where she has to do nothing but only catch the customer. So that's how we, step by step, we design the platform.
That's fantastic. You went through a lot of stuff just right now. So I'm going to pick up the pieces and dive a little more deeper. Let's talk about the healthcare startup. That's very interesting, and changing gears from healthcare into e-commerce or social commerce is interesting. We'll come back to that.
Mhm.
What sort of scale did you achieve on the healthcare startup, and how did the exit happen?
And so with the healthcare magic, we built a network of 15,000 doctors all over the world. And we had customers, we had global customers. We were relatively smaller in India because it was a deliberate decision to not market too much in India, primarily because the economies of the unit economics did not work. But other than that, globally, we had a network of 15,000 doctors, and we were answering like 10 to 12,000 questions every day.
All through chat?
Yeah, no, not through chat. We initially used to do chat, but see, we are talking 2008, 9, 10. At that time, apps weren't as good. So we had a technical challenge there. So chat wasn't working that well. It was an absolutely technical challenge. So we had moved on more to a Q&A platform where you submit a question along with your reports, and the doctor goes through it, answers it, and then you ask follow-up questions. Also, because we had customers abroad, the time zone was a problem. So we had, for practical reasons, we moved to a Q&A format. Although now most of these companies are doing an app-based chat consultation. At that time, that did not take off. But yeah, as a Q&A, the Q&A was working very well.
Interesting. In some sense, a second opinion format as well in some cases?
Very much. So the second opinion was a very good and big use case for us. So we had super specialists. A good percentage of our doctors were super specialists, and at that time, and I don't know how things are now, we were the only place on earth where you could reach a neurologist or an oncologist at the click of a button. It was unimaginable. So for somebody who has been given a diagnosis or wants to know more about their illness, they cannot reach their doctor that easily. Meeting a super specialist is UK, US, it is impossible, because if they think that you don't need to meet your doctor, you don't meet your doctor. There's a lot of regulation around it. You get an appointment which is like 1 month away. Even in India, you travel, you wait outside for a few hours, and the doctor, it depends. It really that how much detail you get to your answer. So yeah, second opinion, we were very much being used for second opinion, and a lot of questions which people are not very comfortable asking in person to the doctor. Either they are too personal or they're perceived as too silly. So there were many use cases.
Interesting. I can directly relate to that use case because way back in 2008, around the same time, my daughter was a little over one. I think maybe 18 months. And that's the time all kids start contracting ear infections, right? If they're in a Montessori, one kid gets the flu or the cold, and then it spreads. And there was a point, because I was traveling a whole lot, and then my wife had just resumed working, and she had ear infections back to back.
Okay.
When the fourth infection happened, the ER actually told us to go visit an ENT. And the ENT surgeon suggested that we should have tubes inserted onto the eardrum.
Okay.
And in fact, my wife was at work that day. There was an auditory test that was conducted, and funnily, the test was about Winnie the Pooh. And see, we don't teach our kids Winnie the Pooh when they're young, when they're a year or 18 months old, right? So she hadn't responded to that, and then the audiologist had actually concluded that there was severe loss of hearing.
Okay.
So, and this ENT surgeon only needed that as an excuse, because the way he spoke about the whole thing was that, hey, you need to get a surgery done, otherwise this is going to get out of hand. And what happened, fortunately, my father-in-law is a pediatrician.
Okay.
And he practices in India, And we called him and informed him about that. And the funny thing is, he wanted us to send copies of the x-rays and the report. And then we scheduled a remote session, and a super ENT super specialist actually looked at my daughter, did a remote diagnosis through Skype, or I don't remember. And then he said, in fact, you can go on for another 9 months with this kind of a situation. Don't get any surgery done. My father-in-law was actually furious at me for even considering getting those tubes inserted. So, so I can imagine. So you were channeling a very similar use case.
Yeah, so the kind of anxiety that you undergo, and technology was making it possible that reports could be exchanged, opinions could be exchanged, and we faced a lot of questions around it. That no, this is not done. You don't see the patient, you don't touch the patient. This is not flying. But there were. So when you are in the patient's shoes, you are in the caregiver shoe, you find your use case. Yeah, there were very, very relevant use cases. And how did the acquisition happen? So we were doing pretty well. The business was profitable because we were earning in dollars, and all was well, but there was a lot of regulatory gray area around it. That was number one. And Ebix, who acquired us, they had a very good presence in US across multiple businesses, including healthcare. And they were they used to provide some health insurance solutions to a large number of corporates. So when we talked to them, it seemed like a very fruitful, meaningful partnership. We just felt that we could reach a much larger patient base if we, as a part of Ebix, and then Ebix takes care of all the regulatory situations around it. Being an Indian company, expanding our wings in US was becoming. It had its own challenges. There is only so much that we were able to do purely online. So that was the idea behind it, and it actually fructified after, unknown to us. It seems that a few Ebix people posted genuine questions, cases and situations that they or their family had been through, and they found the speed and quality of response to be very satisfactory. So on the whole, it went well.
Interesting. It begs the question, how did that founding team come together? Because the founding team for Glow Road is essentially the same founding team as Health Magic, isn't it?
Healthcare Magic, yeah. So that team, which comprises of Kunal and Nitesh and Shekhar, these three were together even before Healthcare Magic in a pure technology startup called Tech Unified. So they were together. And so for them, for this trio, it is the third venture together. And
I see.
I boarded the bus as Kunal's wife. So we met, we got married, and that's how the team got into the healthcare space.
Very, very interesting. Did you ever imagine that you were going to be an entrepreneur?
No, never. Not in my wildest dream.
Well, looks like more dreams wilder than your wildest dreams have come true with the acquisition and what you've done so far.
That's true. That is, I think we have all been quite blessed. Lucky does feel good. But yeah, I sometimes say that, so destiny finds you on the road that you take to avoid it. I used to say that I would never get into a private practice or clinical practice because I hate this thinking about counting number of cases that came and all the business side of it. It's a bit too much. I'll get into some kind of a research or teaching institute. So that you can imagine that's where I was. And then I am knee deep into this, but every bit enjoying it. Sometimes it just feels that we don't know ourselves maybe well enough, and you should never say never to anything.
So let's talk about this. There's one thing that I want to pick your brains on, and I love the fact that a lot of us want to do things. There are issues that we care about. There are people that we care about. There are sections of society that we care about. But it is not every day that you can parlay all of that intent into creating something meaningful. Just like what you said, doing something for women that you very strongly felt. And so let's talk about that initial starting version of the idea a little bit. After you spoke to several women, and it's usually thought of that there is very rarely a case in among startups that an idea was version A, and when the idea actually takes off, it usually is not the version A. There are some aspects of version A in the idea, but once it metamorphoses into something bigger, only a small tiny seed of the original idea remains. So in your case, is that true in your case? Talk to us a little more about that.
Very much true. It actually it happened in the healthcare magic cycle also, but I'll leave that aside. Let's come to Gloro very much. So, see, I do not have any business background. None of my co-founders have any business background. Nothing. So we are all professional people, and the networking platform which we know of is LinkedIn. Okay, so the initial conceptualization was that we will connect the resellers and the suppliers in a LinkedIn type fashion. That there are profiles, there are a lot of reseller profiles and there are a lot of supplier profiles, so you know which suppliers are there and what they sell, and blah blah blah, and XYZ number of information and recommendations and stars, everything. Then you connect with each other, person to person, and take the business forward. This did not fly at all, because we just felt that the need and the attitude, I should say the need of this segment was entirely different. See, you do not go on LinkedIn and say that, hey, LinkedIn, you connected me to these 4 candidates and they were all bogus. And you don't curse LinkedIn that, hey, I went for 4 interviews through LinkedIn and they were all, I did not get selected. But for some reason, when we connected suppliers and resellers, as in we were making these B2B connections, especially with these lady resellers or the home-based resellers who were relatively new to business themselves, so many anxieties, many doubts, don't know what to do, what to say, concerns. We just not very happy dealing one-to-one. And some people, although many people were very, very professional in their dealings, but a good bunch were not so. So there would be orders that wouldn't get dispatched, or you can imagine the kind of things that started going wrong there. And at one point we had to say that no, we will not let them connect directly, but rather we would make a master inventory for them from multiple suppliers. So the reseller at the moment doesn't know exactly who the suppliers are, and they don't speak to them directly. We do not encourage that. And people also started bypassing the platform. In the sense that no matter how much we encourage them to transact on the platform, they won't do so. And that would leave us with pretty clueless on what to do, because you don't know. And number of transactions happening was pretty good, very good. I mean, what we were estimating at that time, the number of people who were saying that, hey, I'm glad, I'm happy, the number of suppliers who were coming forward. So we could see a lot of action happening, but the chaos was too much. And it seemed like that at least this cannot be. So we had to move to the current scenario, where we make a master inventory, and in a way we take care of it all. You simply take the product, sell the product, and the supplier's job is to ship the product and yeah. So that was a major change that had to happen. So apart from that, yeah, we also tried services. We also because many startups approached us, many businesses approached us that your ladies can promote this, can promote that, and we still want to do that. But many of those things had to be shot down. Till now, we were at that time we said that no, we will not. We will keep our focus to consumer goods for the time being.
Amazing. So let's zoom in a little bit. You initially did the supplier to reseller connect, and then disintermediation of the platform was happening, dealings outside of the platform were happening, and maybe some of them were facing trouble. What was that piece of insight that drove you to say, well, there are two pieces of insight there, right? So one is, let's separate the contact. Let us not even let them talk to each other. That's one aspect. And then the other aspect is creating that master inventory and enabling them to draw their own subset or a mini store. How did you make it? It feels like a giant leap. How did that leap really happen?
We were pushed into that. So we would ask the suppliers hey, once you ship the good, please enter the tracking number over here. This is the place. They had a nice place in the dashboard and they had to do nothing, just enter the tracking number over there. But it was not happening. And if that doesn't happen, I'm unable to show the tracking to my resellers. So they don't know where the product is. And we are inundated with calls that where is my stuff. Naturally, can you imagine in an e-com, if you do not provide the tracking ID to your customer, what happens? So that made it pretty clear that oh my god, the only way I can ensure that the tracking is clearly visible to the reseller at all time is by taking the charge of the logistic. And it was a big decision and something that we saw no point in doing, but the experience for decent experience, it became necessary. So that was one. The other thing is about not letting them talk to each other or not letting them connect, not encouraging them to connect. Either party, that's not their preferred way of working. They would pretty much that is not what they are used to, especially the supplier. So they are short on time. They don't want to be making their own group and dealing with people one-on-one. So what they are used to is that I give you my catalog and then you do whatever with it. That's what they wanted. The resellers also, and we felt that eventually the resellers also were very much, the product is what they care for, and if they don't have to deal directly with the supplier, they don't really mind, and they do actually see it as a one less thing to worry about. So it looked like that we would be able to give a better experience to all parties involved by doing a bit more, by getting more into the operations part of it, which, to be very honest, we were not very enthusiastic about, because that was we wanted to be a largely platform play, but it turned out to be a big operations game.
Well, it's like a nicely balanced three-legged stool. You have your resellers as one leg, and you have your distributors or the manufacturers on one leg, and you provide all the technology support. I think it's fascinating how you put it together. So, have you raised any funding for this?
Oh yeah, we raised a Series A in the year 2017 itself, and we raised our Series B last year in April, May. Yeah.
What were the two sizes, the round sizes?
So the first was 2.5. Axel was our investor for the first round, and it was $2.5 million, and the second round was $11.5 million.
It's a big bet on the fact that you're growing.
We have thankfully investors did. The social commerce space itself took off, and our investors thankfully they thought that we were doing the right things.
Interesting. So let's dive in a little more on the tier 2, tier 3 and tier 4 city aspect. And but before we do that, 10 million downloads in some ballpark. How many products are sold on the platform? How many manufacturers? How many resellers? What sort of money do they earn on a monthly basis or some whatever time period that you measure?
So it's a lot of data points there. So before before this, I'll talk about the lockdown is not this. This is not steady state. So we were.
Yeah, it's aberration.
Yeah, so we were doing about 50,000 transactions through Jan to March this year.
That's per day?
Yeah, per day.
Wow.
So, and the speed and the growth has been phenomenal in this 1 year after the Series B especially, because I recall very, very clearly that in 2018, March or April, I was pacing desperately one evening waiting for people to share that we hit 100 transactions.
This was 2016?
18. So 2018 April, we did our first 100 transactions, and after that it just we saw amazing growth. It seems that some critical mass of supplier and reseller was needed, and then the 1,000, the 10,000. April of 2019 was 10,000 and 50,000 now.
Wow. So 100 transactions per day in 2018 April and 10,000 transactions in 2019 April.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. So that's 100 times of 100.
Yeah, I know things are not going to stay like this from here, but yes, this part has been quite challenging and exciting both.
Phenomenal. And how about resellers? How many lakhs of them?
So at the moment, roughly about 2 lakh resellers transact on the platform, actually do business on the platform every month.
Wow.
The downloads are done, which is like so many people have attempted to use the app.
Right. So that's interesting. So we see these, at least in Bangalore around where I live, I see all of these signs on trees printed in laser paper, earn from home or work from home. And we've seen lots of work from home scams over the years, right? Essentially, but it is fascinating what you've done. Tier 2 and Tier 3, not a lot is discussed about those markets. They are always still projected as, sunrise markets, the next frontier where India lives in. And I can only imagine that given the demographics of that, it has taken off because one, women possibly lack the mobility, and they're possibly in a much more stricter environment, more homemakers. They don't have, even if they're educated, they possibly can't pursue a career of their own because of lack of opportunities. Right. So talk a little more about that demographic and also some surprises that you've seen about those tier 2, 3 and 4 markets.
So what you've said is correct, that all constraints are there. So it is nothing like Bangalore. The number of working women is much smaller. There is no support infrastructure to allow a woman to stay in a job. So daycares and creches are near non-existent, and it's not considered very great to use them, even if they exist. So unless and until you are extremely educated, you have a professional qualification, like you're a doctor or something, fine, you work, but otherwise mostly you cannot. So it was a conscious decision of sort that these are the people whom we wanted to target. That my reseller is a person who doesn't have professional education and who has most likely has not been in the workforce before, and will most likely not be in the workforce before, but still has the aspiration to do something, to be something, and also the need to augment the family income very much. So, with that demographic in mind, you have to bring suppliers accordingly. So you would agree that the fashion sensibility of Bangalore market and say a small city market in UP or Bihar is not the same. Absolutely not the same. And coming to the surprises, there were many pleasant surprises in terms of the willingness and business acumen of these women. It was heartening actually. So they are quite a good number of them are very, very driven, very committed, and they're willing to learn and just because they appreciate that I have a genuine opportunity in front of me. Yes, the other thing I would say that with product selection we had to course correct quite a bit. We realized that we sitting here in Bangalore could not be the right judge of what is good and what is bad. So we have to go entirely by data. So quality is involves a lot of perception. So it made no point for me to sit here and select say clothes and say that these are fantastic and great to value for money. We had to go very, very data driven because we are not a part of the target audience. If I'm making sense to you, like if you could,
Oh yeah,
because we use Uber, we use Ola, we use Book My Show, we can talk about it, we know how it feels, but that was not the case.
So go deeper. This is fascinating. How did you bridge that gap? It is one thing to know that you're not part of that target segment, but a totally different thing to actually jump in, maybe with both feet and both hands and head first, however you did it. Talk about that.
So once you see, the initial days were we were all full of finding suppliers, finding resellers, how to put the catalogs together and everything. And then we started to, and at this time we are not even, a lot of transactions not happening on the platform. So we don't have, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of concrete data there. So we have a lot of proxy matrix of what people are interested in and what's happening, which pictures are receiving more shares or more likes or clicks. And then we started seeing that there are very strong patterns there. It's not like it's not something very evenly spread out, or it's not as though that if we thought that something, we brought in a supplier and thought that this supplier is marvelous and this design is fantastic and it just won't work. It is nobody is showing an interest in it. So we started just observing and capturing data in multiple ways of what people see, and eventually what people buy. And even though it would be at times be counterintuitive to us, also you see we were not even e-commerce people. So now I know that this is the rule in e-commerce. This is a common thing in e-commerce. That is what sells and keeps selling for several years. We were always from the common sense approach, we would say that freshness is a great thing, bring new things, keep showing new things. Then we started seeing that no, there are certain things that are popular, more popular, and will always be popular, day after day after day. So we just kept putting our faith in data and started doing some reseller calls also. And I would say that analytics mainly helped, plus putting both the qualitative and quantitative analysis together has helped us. It's not something that we have found absolute answers to. It's an ongoing process of finding what the reseller wants or what the reseller is able to sell. But that's how, to a large extent, that's how we solved it. And then some part was also when we got the funds and the team size grew a bit, we also started putting teams who would do research the social selling platforms, like what was trending on Instagram.
Interesting, very interesting. So then the first turning point, if I may say so, was about taking an inventory based approach where there was no direct connect. The second one was obviously noticing what was clicking using proxy metrics. With that, let's jump in. The scale that you saw, what were some breakout moments? What were some turning points that convinced you that scale was happening?
So you just said taking charge of the inventory, but I hope it is clear that we do not stock. We are still.
Yes. So obviously, what you're offering is a representation of the inventory.
Yeah, taking control of the digital inventory.
Right. Yeah. So what were some of those moments that were, in some sense, defining moments or breakout points which convinced you that you were onto something, and then it sort of you saw it scale?
Absurd as it may sound, but when you speak to the resellers and the conviction in their, I don't know whether I should call it conviction or the strength in their voice, the urgency in their voice is that yes, we need this, itself is a very big driver, and it kind of tells you that this is something which people require. So I recall a good number of days when, one day in particular, when if you have these moments of I don't know what to do, where to look, and it was lunch hours, so the customer support team, it was a small team at that time, and the customer support people were all away at lunch, and I happened to be in the room. The phone rings and I pick up, and I tell her that okay, so people, I'll connect you with customer care, and this lady tells me that I must tell you, you have built this wonderful platform. You've built something beautiful. So very, very emotional take on it, you may say, but this happening was, till date, it remains the strongest motivator, and we thankfully we do get these words very often. Speaking entirely commercially and data wise, when we felt also the supplier response was also pretty enthusiastic. At one point, there was a small phase, when we were doing it the LinkedIn way, we were trying to monetize the supplier by selling them a subscription to the platform, and that was suppliers were quite in for it. So in terms of monetizing, we could have monetized that model, but scale and customer experience would have been very bad. They would not have let us grow there. So yeah, coming back to reseller, the qualitative reseller feedback and the supplier feedback gives you faith, more belief in what you're up to. And then once we put the cash, once we started offering cash on delivery, the transactions picked up like anything, and we were wary of opening cash on delivery because of it has its inherent problems. But once we opened the platform for cash on delivery orders, the order number just started increasing, and the rate itself, the speed told us that yes, this is happening, and we need to just streamline it really fast.
Amazing. And when you went from 100 to a 10,000 in a year span, was there anything different, or was it already on the base of a foundation that you had already laid by then?
Actually, no. It is in this time being, I should say yes and no, in the sense that taking control of around June, July, we took control of the logistics, and we started doing better cataloging around June. That changed things. That did change things. So, and plus we started experimenting with a lot of viral acquisition techniques, especially the referral program. So that helped. That helped in the initial growth phase.
Okay. So I think this is a fantastic segue into the initial starting points a little more, mostly on building up the supplier base and the reseller base. This is a marketplace, right? So all marketplaces have the tyranny of creating dual flywheels of momentum. You won't get quality resellers until you have quality suppliers. You won't get quality suppliers until you have quality resellers. In some sense, that chicken or egg situation. So 2014 was when the healthcare magic exit happened.
Yeah.
And 2015 is when you all started Glow Road, right?
No. So we registered Glow Road in 2017, and we were toying with the idea, but it was nothing formal was happening.
I see. So talk about those initial moments where you created something. How long did it take for the first user to sign up? How long did it take for the first reseller? And there is this moment in every startup's history, right, where you've built something, you've done a set of things, and no matter what you do, the traction just doesn't seem to be cutting in. Did you have that phase?
About while we were building the platform, as in the tech work was going on, we would every day have a long discussion around what would be more difficult, getting the reseller or getting the supplier. We would just keep throwing ideas at each other, what will be more difficult. So, and then once the platform was ready to take registrations, I just started putting some posts in Facebook groups saying that there's a platform, and you can that same scandalous green paper thing that you can earn money from home. So the good thing is that no matter how spammy it may sound, if people look at it, you must empathize with the fact that when somebody needs money, they will explore all options, even though they may know very well that a good number of them will turn out to be bogus. So we did start getting inquiries pretty fast, and since the registration was free, people started registering. The resellers started registering, not like in hundreds and thousands, but people started registering. Every day, if we put posts in groups, we talk to some admins, and totally free marketing, not putting any marketing money. Resellers did start registering. Getting decent suppliers was time taking. If I should not say challenging, there were a lot of learnings along the way, because we had zero experience in this domain. To find the right supplier, and we were especially when you don't have foot on ground, like you're not sitting in Gujarat or Jaipur, you're sitting in Bangalore. So to find the correct supplier it took us quite some time to figure out that how shall we go about this. We eventually were able to get around this by hiring the right expertise. We had to get people who had done this before, and so we required a different team altogether, to build a team who could get these suppliers on board. It was not happening through just throwing Facebook ads or putting Google ads that this is a platform or cold calling people. It wasn't happening. So we put an experienced team there, people who had done it for Flipkarts and Amazons. We found some good people, and then slowly the products started, the catalogs started trickling in, and when you have domain expertise, they were able to tell that what is correctly priced, what is not correctly priced. Then came the fact that our supplier base needs to be different from the normal e-com supplier base. So this team also has a challenge. They can't go back to the same supplier who sells on Amazon or who sells on Flipkart, because here we are working in a different way. I need the product. We are not going to charge them a commission. For a long time we were not charging. We were not monetizing, in the sense that we were not charging any commission on sale. So to convince the supplier to give us a better price point, a different design than what they are selling on Amazon or Flipkart, because my reseller is supposed to sell it to their end consumer. You cannot sell something to an end consumer at a higher price than what is available at Amazon, right? So to figure out processes so that none of this happens, that we find the right product, right supplier at the right price, so that we are able to create value for the reseller and eventually for the end consumer. all this did take a lot of legwork, hard work. Yeah.
Outstanding. So, wow, that is really fascinating to hear. So, along the way, on the personal side, it must have been, and I'm still sure, certain it is one hell of a journey in learning and feeling challenged every single day in maybe facing situations that are possibly new.
Yes, it is exciting as well. So, to especially with coming from this was U-turn, a double U-turn, from turning from medicine to a pure e-commerce, social commerce, fashion. So my days and nights around, my entire conversation is around price and fabric, and the what this consists of, and very different from medical world. But it's nice, I would say, no complaints at all. Very, very blessed to have had the opportunity to experience so many things in depth. Very challenging also, but yeah, it is, if you kind of, it's something close to your heart, you carry on.
So, I'm going to ask you a slightly personal question. It was your idea, and then it must have been one hell of a partnership between you and Kunal to say you were going to lead it, and for the other team to rally behind you and actually work together. So, was there any discussion on who was going to lead it, or was it always you that was going to head this?
See, to be very honest, on the ground, we do most, between me and Kunal, we have done things together since the healthcare magic days. So there is absolutely no division between our personal and professional life. So work talk, home talk, kids talk, family talk, it all just nicely flows one into the other. Not that we don't fight, we do have a lot of arguments about everything every now and then. And about who will lead is nothing like, see, there are things that mercifully, we have very different skill sets. So he is good at certain things, and I am really bad at that, and I am good at some things, and he has zero interest in that. So that has kind of led to the division of who does what in a less what do you say less violent way. There was no power struggle as such. So officially Kunal is the CEO of the company. He manages the investor relations also. He's much more of a people's person, and he likes doing that. He has done it before. He's operationally also very skilled. I am more of a analytics and detail oriented person. So I can go into the details of something to any end. I can keep on researching, finding a solution, and I can put many hours. So I don't know, I never, maybe because I was supposed to be a doctor, so I never thought that you were supposed to work 8 hours a day. It was always like any number of hours a day. So at the moment, yes, somehow, plus design is also something that Kunal is not exactly interested in. So and because when you somehow something is born in your head, it just so happens that you know it and you can see it, and the other person cannot. And so in spite of being a medico and not knowing, to begin with, not even knowing what a product manager is, I became the de facto product person for the company. So at the moment, and right from the beginning, I have been taking care of the product part, getting the product designed, the supply part, by the sheer virtue of the fact that I am a woman and most of our resellers are women and customers are women, so I understand them a bit more. I like to just play with, look into data also, and Yeah, and the reseller relations. So I find I am any day happier talking to the resellers than say the investors. I take care of that part. Yeah.
Awesome.
So yes, we have it has not been too bad.
So let's talk about decision making, and this is one of my favorite questions just because of the way decisions are seen. The common myth around people is that there are some people that can make great decisions and some people that can make average decisions. I am of the opinion that some decisions work, some don't. And there is a confirmation bias in when we make statements like that. So on that count, what have been some decisions that worked out and the ones that did not work? And are you grateful for some decisions that didn't work out and for the ones that did?
Immediately, nothing very big comes to mind. There is always small and big things happening every day in terms of the decisions working and not working. I think we've already talked a lot about, because all the initial changes happened around decisions that were obviously not working, and the decisions coming to the decisions. Obviously, a lot of decisions have worked, which has brought us to this point. I can't recall anything which was absolutely like any one particular disaster or any one big huge hit. I would say one thing which we were being told, the general advice would have been that no, do not see the e-commerce people. They work in a very structured way, and the way the way they work with suppliers is very different and structured. There was a lot of most people would discourage us from doing that differently. Like till date, if I find a good supplier, I would accept catalogs from that supplier on WhatsApp, because that supplier doesn't know Excel and it is very difficult. They have a mental block around it, and a lot of suppliers, they are the scale is less. They are too remote. This was an unconventional decision that has worked for us. That it doesn't matter, no matter if the supplier is giving I don't need white backgrounds, I don't need very fancy photos, I don't need model photos, I don't even need a lot of product details, as long as the critical things are there. And I will take the supplier, first show the supplier some sale, and then slowly we will groom it. So till date, we are open to the idea of taking onboarding a supplier who is otherwise who wouldn't be thought a great fit for e-commerce.
I have to totally agree with that. I'll let you complete and then I have something to add.
So that is one thing. Secondly, I think that's about it.
I completely agree with you on the catalog part. In fact, I co-founded a startup called Flit, a fashion locator in town, and the funny thing was, initially, we were doing a lot of cataloging for the merchants because they were all unique brands and unique merchants. And it was a huge logistical and a financial nightmare to do all of that.
Yes.
And I always used to think this was way back in 2015, and Oyo was still smaller back then. We would compare ourselves with somebody like Oyo and say, hey, Oyo is selling a hotel room. And in their case, they only have to photograph their product only once, right? But when it comes to fashion, especially if it is of the non-mass variety and if it is unique, that is changing on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
And the funny thing was, we looked around and we started observing what was happening on social media. And we saw that the pictures that were actually generating inquiries or sales were not the fancy e-commerce background pictures.
Right.
They were not the ones with white background. They didn't have, in many cases, they did not even have a human being on the model, on the dress. Right? So we realized that, so we did one hack where we took the social feed and allowed them to convert it into a product feed directly.
Okay.
So I can completely relate to what you're saying, that if somebody didn't have fancy photography, as long as they had decent photography that did justice to the product in some form of fashion, it was something that you could Totally agree. It is one of those things where you learn from what's working and do not really stick. Yes, I can understand if you want your app to look really, really classy, but that can come later. When you are threatened for survival, you have to be pragmatic, right?
That, and plus, see, it was a double-edged sword, that because you cannot, and when you are talking to an investor, you can only tell so much of the story, and sometimes people are so repulsed at seeing your app that, oh my god, these people don't even know how to put a decent picture, and there is no detail mentioned. They have not even, there is no sleeve length filter. This is trash. You have to say that, fine, okay, but it's not. It has its it had its what do you say, risks. There is a lot of risk in mainly the impression risk. So if somebody knows the nitty-gritty of it, they will understand why you are doing what you are doing. But to the first time observer, of course, the app doesn't make a very great impression.
Totally. But I think the shrewd investor who's looking at transactions happening from this would realize that ultimately the true test is transactions. If the most fanciest picture is not really generating any revenue, I mean, it's that possibly counts as art, but not necessarily as a commercial picture, right? So
definitely. I mean, I'm just talking about the initial reaction, and of course, what eventually clicks with the investor is something that it is so many things put together.
Oh, certainly. Awesome. So, Sonal, what's the dream scenario for Glow Road? I'm sure you've possibly gone past several dream scenarios and scaled. What's the next dream scenario or the ultimate outcome for Glow Road?
See, the number of resellers who make a decent income, if on Glow Road, we have certain numbers in mind. I would say that if 1 million ladies, at the moment 2 lakh people transact on the platform, make money, or that is 2 lakh people, we may pay margins to 2 lakh resellers per month on an average. We want this number to grow. That is the most important parameter. And the earning per reseller is 2 things that are very, very crucial. And the dream scenario is to become an extremely easy to use Shopify, a mini Shopify with a supply built in. So a dropshipper's paradise. So if somebody thinks that I need to start a business, if somebody thinks that I have the capability to sell goods, and we should be their default choice. And at the same time, they should be able to grow with us. Means if it is the more sophisticated reseller, the platform, so there are plans of making the platform technically superior, in the sense that once the resellers start scaling, they plan to do, and they do things like running their own ads and wanting their own analytics. We want to be the one-stop shop for that person, right from the day one of their business to the final day where they're running a large business of their own.
And I suppose international is somewhere there in the cards?
International, to be honest, is not in the immediate plan. There is a lot to be done in India right now. Not going international immediately, but we understand that how that works with the healthcare magic to quite some extent. Yes, not saying no to it, but first making it a beautiful place for the Indian reseller.
Yeah. Well, I like that. I think there's definitely a ton of opportunity still left in India.
Oh, absolutely.
And alternate distribution models like yours are not, while you are there and you have scaled to a great degree, we are now starting to see, because of the internet, a lot of smaller brands emerge in all sorts of categories. And while social media at one point in time was available to some of them, especially the kind of the physical products and consumer goods, you need alternate channels. Not everybody can think about appointing the usual FMCG type distributors,
Oh, yes.
incurring 4 to 5 crores in investment
Mhm.
even before they register the first sale, and then extend huge lines of credit. That's the traditional playbook, right?
Yes. So, yeah, the kind of strength that we bring to the merchant community is also amazing.
Yeah, it's unparalleled.
Not everyone, I mean, to be found on Amazon and to be found on Flipkart for a small merchant is a nightmare.
I agree, totally agree. So, what would be your advice to women in general out there who are contemplating entrepreneurship, who are thinking of starting something on their own, having done two successful unintentional entrepreneurships?
First thing first is that you need to get the whole that I am a woman thing out of your, at least you need to get it out of your head, even if the world does not. You are capable, you can think, you can analyze, you're just good as anybody else. So it's a very small thing to say. It's just a very obvious thing to say, but yes, that is number one. Because I just felt that in the medical community, because we have seen a lot of women in leadership positions, I just felt that thing that, oh, I'm a woman, is a bit bigger, a bit stronger in the tech environment. Still, because naturally women in tech are relatively much less visible than women in medicine. So overcome that, your own mental barrier. Secondly, have the family on board, because you cannot fight this fight on all fronts. So it's absolutely very, very necessary to have the family on board. Third thing which I have done is, of course, outsource a lot of all the responsibilities that can be outsourced, and make peace with the fact that you will not be the most perfect mother or the various other roles that you play. So you have to make peace with that and just focus on the most essential or precious things that you want to do in your personal life. That was about the being a woman part of it.
Interesting.
Being the entrepreneur part of it, I think there are many people out there who would have, and there's a lot of the same advice, the similar advice which comes from all quarters and which is very, very valid, is take care of your expenses, be frugal, be persistent, and just persist, analyze a lot, don't hesitate to change, don't hesitate to say that this is not working, and just change.
Amazing. The funny thing is, when somebody is a man, very rarely this question gets asked to them. At the cost of incurring that wrath, I'm going to ask you, because what you've done seems superhuman, superwomanish in some sense to me, because being an entrepreneur means you're actually running multiple parallel tracks, and whether you like it or not, and no matter how much support you get at home, there is that mother, and then there is the family side that has to come together. How do you make sense of it all? How do you keep it all together?
You know what, I believe, and I strongly believe that doing this well, creating Glow Road, and doing it well, and showing, I have two daughters, and showing them that these things can be done. You can actually give shape to your plans, your dreams, your ideas, is the best thing that I can do for them. So I have pretty much that motivates me, and I know it that my children think the same way, thankfully. So if I tell them that I just jokingly told my daughter that I no office anymore. My mama is going to be at home, and she says she's shocked, and she that no, then who's going to do Glow Road? Who's going to run Glow Road? So children, you know that I have their the support, that psychological support, and I believe that it has a positive impact on their personality. keeping it all together has not been easy. Honestly, it takes a huge toll on you psychologically. But over the years, there have been times when things have got really tough, in the sense that I just feel very anxious, out of control. But the things like meditation, exercise. I mean, I was not really. I just thought that this is all talk, but somehow very proactively working on your own emotional health, and I would most importantly say the spiritual health, your entire philosophy or outlook towards life helps a lot. Once you have that, if that is in place, the anxiety levels and the stress levels. So no matter how you do it, you just need to grow above your stress and anxiety and not let it take control of yourself. It may everybody has their own way of doing it. I'm just describing what I have done.
So on that count, do you ever worry that what you've built could all unravel?
I see. Only time will tell, and in times of Corona, what will be will be. It is also. I think it is best if we just think positive and think what we can do. There is no point in. That is the last thing one needs to worry about. There's enough already on the plate.
Right,
So yeah,
right.
there is absolutely. If one starts getting anxious about that, how it could all go wrong, I would just say that don't even go there. Don't worry. You just worry on about what you can do today.
Right. Awesome. Terrific. Sonal, this has been a fantastic discussion. Lots of amazing takeaways from your story. Love your humility and your candor with which you've talked about it. And more importantly, you are someone who's put your money where your mouth is. You've gone behind a cause that you were passionate about. And one aspect that I forgot to ask early on, when you jumped in both Healthcare Magic and Glow Road, initially both of them were bootstrapped. Am I correct?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Was Glow Road bootstrapped for a lesser time than Healthcare Magic because of the success that you enjoyed?
Oh yes, definitely. So we put in some capital of our own, and the Axel came on board very soon as well. They were our investors in Healthcare Magic also, and they were very enthusiastic about the idea.
Interesting. Great. Well, and we say this to everybody that comes on Maharajas of Scale. Thank you for being a Maharani, and thank you for what you do. Maharajas of Scale will be there cheering you to greater heights. I'm sure you'll make a lot more amazing things happen, and this is just the beginning. For all the things that you've done, I'm very certain this is just scratching the surface of the possibilities that lay ahead of you and your platform. We wish you the very best, and we will be there to talk to you again when you reach your next peak.
Thanks so much, Krishna. This has been amazing. It has been amazing talking to you. It made me go over a lot of things all over again, and has me thinking on many more points. Really awesome. Thanks so much for this. This was fantastic.
Thank you, Sonal.
We hope you enjoyed this story. If this story made a difference to you, tell us by leaving a comment on the website or our social media channels. Help us spread the love by subscribing, liking, and sharing our show. We welcome speaker suggestions and collaborations. Write to me at nida@maharajasofscale.com.